Now I want to read our text. It's from the 10th chapter of 1 Corinthians, the 13th verse. It says this: there hath no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted above that which you're able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. In other words, the temptations that you have in your life and the troubles and the difficulties are not yours alone. There are thousands and millions of people that have had the same temptations and the same difficulties in life as you have. I heard about a little boy the other day, and his mother was looking for him throughout the house, and she couldn't find him. And finally, she heard him. He was back in the pantry, and he had his hand in the cookie jar. And he was getting ready to pull some cookies out, and he knew that was against the rules of the house. And his mother said, "What are you doing?" And he knew he was in for a scolding, and so he answered her. He said, "I'm fighting temptation." What is the toughest word and the most difficult word that young people have to learn to pronounce? It's the word N-O, no. Just say no, as Mrs. Reagan used to say to drugs. It's more than that, but we say no to so many things. Now, there was a man in the scriptures that said no. His name was Daniel, and the scripture says that he purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the royal wine which he drank. You see, Daniel was a young man with a purpose. He had found a purpose in life. He was in Jerusalem, and while a teenager, he was captured by the Babylonians, and he was taken over to Babylon to be trained in all the ways of the Babylonians, because Nebuchadnezzar, the great emperor, said, "Bring some young men over that we can train them and use them in our society." And he wanted them to learn the Babylonian tongue and to become servants of the king. But Daniel refused. He refused to eat the king's meat or drink the king's wine. He wanted a simple food. Just vegetables is all he wanted. And he knew how dangerous that was. How different from those who can't wait until they get away from home to live it up. Daniel was a long way from home. He could have yielded and become a great man, it seemed, at that moment. But he didn't. He knew it might mean death to refuse the king. Nobody would have known the difference back home. He could have gained popularity by indulging. But this early no in Daniel's life prepared him for the big no when he faced the den of lions. The big no when he had to face Belshazzar, the king. When he refused the gifts of Belshazzar if he would interpret the writings on the wall. We defile ourselves. How? By overeating, gluttony, drinking too much alcohol, drug taking, too many movies that are wrong.
In the silence, there's a spark, a quiet tension in the dark. Watching your eyes across the room, can't deny something about you makes me want to try. Feeling the vibe, and it's so brand new. Wondering if you're feeling it too. Step a little closer, don't be shy. I can tell you've got that spark inside. Let's see where the night might lead. Are you ready? We'll take the lead. Let's break the wall, let's cross the line. Don't need to hold back, it's our time. Let's break the wall, step into the light. You and I, let's make it right.
Sex was given to you by God for a purpose, for enjoyment within the bonds of matrimony, for the continuation of the human race. It's a gift from God, but we abuse it. We use it the wrong way. And God has judged nation after nation and family after family and person after person because we've misused this great gift of God. Now, you cannot face this temptation alone. It's too strong, especially young men, because they have a much stronger sex drive than women on the whole. And they can't resist without God's help. And many of you here tonight might fit into the statistics quoted in Time magazine, May 24th cover story entitled Kids, Sex, and Values. It said that bombarded by mixed messages about values, students are more sexually active than ever and more confused and more unhappy. The moral standards of society, once generally accepted, says Time, or at least paid lip service to, fell victim to a sexual revolution and a medical tragedy. They're talking about AIDS and other VD. 1/4 of teens contract some venereal disease each year. About 20% of all AIDS patients are under 30. But because of the long incubation period, a large proportion of them were likely infected with HIV as teenagers in high school. And they don't know it. And it'll hit one day when they're maybe 30 or 35 or 40. And you are walking around with this time bomb. And young people don't realize it. Kids are continuing to try sex at an ever more tender age, said Time. The marks of a Christian are self-control and self-discipline. Yes, we can control ourselves, but we need God's help. And that's the reason you need to turn to Christ, as Bill so wonderfully said a few minutes ago. You need Christ to help you to face the tempter. Paul wrote to Timothy and said, keep yourself pure. He said, flee youthful lust. He said, run when the temptation comes. Don't just sit there and think about it. Run. Run as fast as you can away from it. He also said, I keep my own body and bring it into subjection. He said, I control and discipline my own body with God's help. And he could say no to the tempter. Jesus was tempted. 3 strong temptations the devil threw at him in the wilderness when he was hungry and tired and thirsty. And each time, Jesus threw it back in his face, but he didn't argue with the devil. He didn't debate the devil. He simply quoted Scripture. Each time he said, it is written. It is written. It is written. And each time the devil was defeated. Satan can be defeated when you are filled with the Spirit of God, obeying God in the center of His will, and quoting Scripture. The Scripture says all these things took place for our example. The devil left Jesus. The angels came and helped him. Are you willing to say no matter what the cost? Then say yes to the claims of Christ. He says tonight He will come into your heart, right now tonight. We recently had a phone call from someone watching our last crusade on television. She said, when I was 13, I fell away from God and became heavy into drugs and alcohol. I completely rebelled against everything. I refused to believe that God would ever help my family. I believed God was cruel and I felt hate toward Him. I continued living in sin and hate because I thought I had nothing to lose until I watched your program and called that number on the television screen and asked for spiritual help. I'm asking you tonight to do what we saw hundreds of people do last night in the rain. I'm going to ask you to come and make a commitment to Christ.